quickly, other things I wanted to mention. Sometimes there's an attempt to portray Islam as a political ideology. Also be careful when you're dealing with others. Yes, Islam encourages us to be politically active, to speak for justice. But Islam is not a political ideology alone. It's not just a political ideology. So the others, that creates Islamophobia, because when they're looking at us, all they see is just politically active people. You know, against this, yes, for this, against this. Islam also is a way of life. It's what provides for our spirituality, what provides for our faith, our relationships, values, and so on and so forth. So it's important to look at this. Another component is any criticism of the West in general or America, if it is done by a Muslim, is considered to be unpatriotic. So Thomas Friedman can say something, so that was wise. Larry King can say something, so wow, that's not what he said. Ariana Huffington can say it, it's great, it's very smart. Try having a Muslim say the same thing. Man, these Muslims are so anti-American. Unpatriotic. Shame on you. How dare you? That is also Islamophobia. Because it's almost like saying, the minute you become a Muslim, your opinion doesn't count. Or your opinion becomes weighed as a Muslim, not as an American. You're not an intellectual. You're not an American. You are doing it as an anti-American. Also, this has to be challenged. Yes, I'm a Muslim. I happen to be a Muslim. That's fine. But I have a political view too. I can disagree with Bush. I can disagree with Obama. I can disagree with the CIA. It doesn't make me anti-American. It doesn't make me less patriotic than others. It is important. So all these components that I mentioned are important for you to keep in mind, because some people operate based on one component. Some of them, you know, a combination of these components. And once you understand the component, then you understand how to tackle it. So if someone is coming on the basis of thinking all things Muslims do is violent, well then it becomes easy, because now I can sit down and say, okay, let me explain to you. If I got an email from somebody who says, you know, at that time you don't need to talk about other things. If that is the basis of their fear of you, because they misunderstood what the Quran says, or because they think we're all one block, meaning they show you an image about somebody beating up someone in Iran or somewhere, say, is that what you guys do? Then you explain, no, Muslims, like everybody else, they're diverse. They're the good ones and the bad ones. Are they good Christians? Yes. Are they bad Christians? Yes. Are they good Muslims? Yes. Are they bad Muslims? Yes. And that is important, by the way, especially for brothers and sisters of the Muslim faith. We have to stop being defensive. We really have to stop being defensive. Meaning, if something bad happens, there's no need to defend. There's nothing to do for you to defend or feel guilty. You're not responsible. You don't need to feel guilty about what happened on 9/11. You can condemn it, you can hate it, but you don't need to feel like, oh my God, people are going to think they're going to... You didn't do it. Last time I checked, if you did it, you're in trouble. But you have nothing to do with it. We have nothing to do. So if someone kills somebody in the name of Islam falsely, you don't need to, you can just explain what happened. You can say this is what somebody... Because domestic violence happens in America every day. By Christians, by Jews, by just people who are sick. They do things on their own. Whether they use Christianity or their mothers who use Christianity as an excuse for not giving medicine to their kids, because that's their interpretation, that only God is the healer. And you don't need that happens. These cases actually happen almost every week in courts in America, where parents are actually taken to court because they refuse to give medicine or take their kids to a hospital. And that is a very strict, non-mainstream Christian interpretation. These are not Muslims. Do we blame Christianity for that? No. So it is important for Muslims also to keep that in mind. So we're not always on the defensive, we're also dealing with the challenge that others are going through. I want to give you quick examples when we talk about Islamophobia, so from real life. What I talk about is theoretical in a way, studies done by professors with components in books, just so we can dissect what the problem is. Examples from real life of Islamophobia. And it's only getting worse, by the way, so that is important to keep in mind. A few years ago, right after 9/11, actually it had been before 9/11, but right after 9/11, that's when it became publicly known. So Islamophobia was mainly about targeting extremism. So it wasn't about Islam or Muslims, it was about the Muslim extremism. They, give them names. And everybody is bundled together. So it doesn't matter if they're Salafis, Tabligis, Ikhwanis, Brotherhood, Al-Qaeda, whatever, they're all bundled together. They're Islamists, they're bad. And Muslims go, it's us, so we're all safe. Well, next thing, we notice the Quran itself became a target of attacks. So we have media pundits, politicians, book of violence, hatred, anger. We hate it. Then we hear about an attack on the Prophet of Islam, Prophet Muhammad. That's a form of Islamophobia. He is, purified, hateful man, evil man, all sorts of things that just makes you feel how the level of ignorance that exists out there. But that is the growth. Then the move came to the Quran, the Prophet, then the places of worship. So now when Muslims are talking about opening or expanding a mosque, there's an opposition to the mosque. Not only at Part 51 Mosque in New York, but also here in Temecula, in Tennessee, in other areas. I mean, almost 30 cases we're dealing with in America, where communities are trying to have a mosque and people coming to them and saying, no mosque in our neighborhood. We don't need a mosque because it's a center of extremism, hatred, terrorism, sleeper cells, whatever it is. So notice the language, and we're not talking about fringe elements in society. I mean, we have members of Congress. You were just reminding me. Newt Gingrich, supposedly running for president, said no mosque in New York. Peter King, infamous, the one who held the hearing about this. We'll talk about that a little bit. Again said, we have too many mosques in America. Imagine a politician, a senior politician saying, we have too many synagogues in America. What will happen to that person? That will be at the end of their career. Imagine somebody who has too many Catholic churches in America. But what is happening is they're creating an atmosphere of acceptance. Because the more they push the envelope, then the hatred that was mentioned a year ago becomes normal. Like, whoa, that was nothing compared to now that they're talking about the mosque. Now there's a hearing, last month, when Peter King held the hearing to question if Muslims in America are cooperative with law enforcement. So now what they are, now they're questioning American Muslims. So that's a form of Islamophobia, a very dangerous one. Because what they're saying is, we're not equal. We're not like other people. They're studying terrorism and extremism in America, radicalism. They didn't say, let's study about all radicalism. They said, let's study about terrorism within the Muslim community. As if there's no terrorism anywhere else. Although the FBI's numbers show that actually the overwhelming majority of terrorism in America, domestic terrorism, is not conducted by Muslims. Overwhelmingly, we're talking about over 85%, is not done by Muslims. This is according to the Department of Justice. Yet, you hear idiots, so-called experts, saying, well, maybe not all Muslims are terrorists, but all terrorists are Muslims. That's factually wrong. But again, who's challenging? That gets, if you repeat a lie enough times, it becomes a fact. It's perception. They create that perception. Now the biggest thing in the form of Islamophobia, the fear-mongering, anybody who's keeping up with the news, what is the biggest thing now? Sharia law. Who said it? Yeah, Sharia law. Now the biggest fear-mongering is about Sharia. Now what is the threat against America? The threat against America is that Muslims are trying to impose their Sharia and basically undermine or maybe even remove the Constitution. That is exactly, we have at least 15 states now, 16 states across the country, which have passed or are in the process of passing laws, state laws, that would ban the use of Sharia in U.S. courts, or would criminalize anyone who practices Sharia. Think about this manufactured fear. Because it's impossible for any law, forget about Sharia, Muslim law, Jewish law, Christian law, or any law, for that law to supersede or cancel U.S. laws or the Constitution. You can't. It's against the Constitution. If a judge tries to do anything that contradicts the Constitution or U.S. laws, that judge will be dismissed immediately on the spot. It's illegal. You cannot do that. But yet, they think there's a need to pass a law to stay in the office. Now, why would they do that? They're not dumb. They know Sharia law is not the law. They know. They know that Sharia law, and actually don't even understand what Sharia law is. Because when they talk about Sharia law, what they're focusing on is the criminal justice or criminal law aspect of the Sharia, which is the punishment, which is the tiniest part of Sharia law, which is the part that none of us has anything to do with anyway. You can't punish the murderers, the rapists, Because this is the job of government, established government, elected government, a court system. Individuals cannot do that. Communities cannot do that. It's against Islamic law. It's against Islamic Sharia for people to take the law into their own hands. Sharia law, as we Muslims understand it, and it's important to clarify, is what defines our spirituality, our relationship with one another. Our faith. When you pay charity, your zakat. When you pray, you just pray Maghrib. When you go to perform the pilgrimage, the Hajj, that is part of Sharia. When you're nice to your parents, when you're respectful to your elders, when you're honest in your business, when you don't eat pork or drink alcohol, that is your Sharia. When you smile in the face of someone else to bring joy to their heart, that's part of our Sharia. When you're honest in your speech, you're soft in your treatment and kind in the treatment of other people, that is part of our Sharia. That's Sharia. But the problem is they're creating a fear of that Sharia, because what they're trying to do is, again, irrational fear. How many people, how many millions are going to go and research, or go to you, or go to the mosque and ask about Sharia? No one, very few. So they know that by using, foreign language Sharia, Taqiyya, ooh, must be true because it's foreign. So the problem is, and it's a serious problem, and I have to tell you, it is extremely serious. Two things that are going to be serious for us to deal with for the coming at least year, between now and the next election. The demonization of the American Muslim community at large, and specifically American Muslim youth. And that has started with all this talk about youth radicalization, homegrown terrorism. There are whole budgets now in the hundreds of millions, actually in the billions of dollars now coming from Congress to law enforcement, to agencies, to universities, to study this phenomenon of youth radicalization. MSA is youth. I don't even know what I'm doing with this. Just ruining my reputation. A bunch of extremists. So that is one. The other one is the Sharia. So we have to be